Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and this is going to be my first upload into the new year 2023. I skipped a couple days because I've been pretty busy with other random garbage in my life. But besides all that, today I'm going to be sharing my final thoughts on the BGPT Bridgeport Knives 395 version 1. Now I'm assuming that there's going to be future iterations of this knife, and I really hope that there is, because this thing is, in my opinion, an absolute home run. I do apologize for the weird camera angle. It's a little bit different than the setup I've had in prior videos. The tripod that I've been using for the last couple months, a part broke on it and now I can't use it, which is unfortunate. I would just go out and buy another one, but at the moment I'm doing the best that I can with what I currently have. So unfortunately, this model is sold out, but there were a couple chances where this was available. There was a pre-order that was $118, an absolute steal, I'm gonna tell you guys right now. But after the pre-order, it bumped up 10 bucks, no big deal, whatever. So this I purchased for $128, and I don't remember off the top of my head after like shipping and taxes. So this is this designer's first knife design, and it's absolutely wonderful. I don't know much about the guy, but I will say that if this was its first design, definitely this individual has a bright future, because this thing is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to be pulling off the specs, dimensions, and materials and all that kind of good stuff off the actual website, bridgeportknives.com. The blade material is Sandvik 14C28N, and in my experience with using this knife, it's right around just like every other 14C that I have personally used. I have not sharpened this since getting it. This is still a factory edge, and I've just been stropping it up on a little leather strap that I have, and it's held an edge fairly well, but it is definitely due for a genuine sharpening on my Wicked Edge Pro. The blade finish is a beautiful stone wash. I think it's just heavy as all can be, and it's just really good looking. That's just my opinion. I will always prefer stone wash and bead blast to, satin and, other types of finishes. Dark wash would have been cool too if this was like a black blade. That'd be pretty awesome, but that's, my personal aesthetic that I like to go for. This knife was actually offered in 2 different colors, and the one that sold the fastest was the all silver. It had the same finish on the pivot and all the hardware in the clip. It was very monochromatic and it was very clean looking, but the last ones that were available were the ones with the black hardware and clip, and that's personally what I like, so I felt like it was meant to be. The grind on this is a hollow grind, which is wonderful. This blazes through material like nobody's business. This is a steel liner lock with wonderful jimping and plenty of, that's a lot of access. This thing is very comfortable to disengage and just super smooth on some ceramic ball bearings and with a ceramic detent ball. Pretty freaking sweet. Overall length, actually no, let's do blade length. 3 inches on the dot. So it is quite wonderful. I'm pretty sure that's from down here to the actual tip. The cutting edge is going to be a little bit shorter than that, but still be a little wary when it comes to your local knife length, laws and regulations and stuff like that. The overall length of this is 7 inches, and that is, in my opinion, absolutely perfect. That's a perfect EDC dimension. Handle thickness 12 millimeters. Blade stock thickness 2.8 millimeters. So it is not super robust, but it's not super mega thin either. It's quite medium, definitely with the added benefits of that hollow grind. Again, this thing is just, it's great. Let's see. Blasted or black mill titanium. So the pivot, clip, and hardware are titanium which is a premium feature for sure, especially at this price point. I think that's quite wonderful. T8 says, oh, okay, so the pivot is a T10. The rest of everything else is a T8. The only, I guess, downside to the black is that, you know, once adjusting or taking it apart, and I have taken this apart once already just to see the goodies inside and just to see how this thing was, you know, manufactured and put together. It's quite well, definitely. And weight, 4 ounces on the dot, manufactured by Kubi. Now that right there, manufactured or OEM'd by Kubi, was definitely a surprise for me because I haven't handled any, you know, premium knives by Kubi, and I mean premium by something that is offered in a, you know, medium to higher grade blade material and with titanium and the hardware and stuff like that and scales, and the finished thing on this thing is just pretty awesome. The only Kubis I've had are like the budget ones with D2, G10 and things like that. But Kubi is definitely a brand that I do definitely enjoy. I personally have just never checked out any of their premium stuff. But if this is the kind of stuff that they're capable of, I've been missing out. I genuinely have. And if you guys are on the fence of trying out some or higher end stuff from Kubi, I would say if this is what they are capable of, that's pretty awesome. So let's go into a handful of size comparisons. My new tripod or temporary tripod is kind of at an angle, and it's really the best that I can do. Starting off, let's do the Elementum. It's practically the same thing as the Elementum. The cutting edge is just a little bit more on the Bridgeport knife, but it's still a decent finger choil space. The jimping is quite the same, but the disengagement is significantly more comfortable on the Bridgeport knife, and overall length is, you know, quite the same. On the Elementum, I do have Titanium aftermarket scales, so they do have a little bit of rounding off, but a standard one in G10 or my Carter, the wood ones, they're flat, as you know, this is also flat too. This isn't contoured, but heavily chamfered on those edges. Looks very, very clean. All right, to my Demco 80-20.5, a little bit larger in handle length, but cutting edge is still less than the Bridgeport knife. Let's do up against my Benchmade Bug Out. The Bug Out has significantly more handle length, but the cutting edge, yeah, there's more cutting edge too. So Bug Out is definitely a winner in comparison, but one of the main faults of the Bug Out in comparison to the Bridgeport knife is that you can't get a forward grip close to that edge for more, I guess, just a better grip. Let's see, let's do my Osborne 940 by Benchmade. Just a whole lot bigger overall, and cutting edge, it's like a whole other inch more. And last two here, I have my Spyderco Para 3. Trying to get this frame. There's that. So again, a whole lot more handle with the Para 3, but less cutting edge. The Bridgeport knife has like almost an inch over with like a usable cutting edge. Last but not least, my Spyderco PM2. It's just a giant freaking dinosaur in comparison. So all those size comparisons hopefully help you guys, you know, visualize what this thing is, you know, similar to. Let's get into the good part of this video, the review. This thing is absolutely wonderful. If it was still available, I would say that this is 110% a highly recommendable knife. This is meant to be a user, a fidgeter. It's super comfortable to disengage. The one little thing I noticed about the action that did change, I genuinely experienced a true break-in with this knife, because When I got it, it was really smooth and the action was great and all, but I noticed that there was a little bit of blade play after, you know, using it for a couple days. So took it apart, cleaned it, added, you know, new Loctite and tuned it and everything, made sure that it was perfectly centered. It came well centered, and it's, to my eye, it looks pretty darn good, but if anything, it could be a hair towards the clip side. Not a big deal. But I noticed that, you know, after having this for a little bit, there was some side to side movement, no like up and down play, but it was just side to side. So obviously, you know, you tighten the pivot a little bit, and that's when I started noticing that I could feel the bearings. I could feel like there was like little like steps as it was, you know, moving. Now it's completely broken in and it feels like a super smooth. Just the action is very, just really clean. So no major complaints, just broke in, and that's something that you could expect in a lot of other knives. I can't say that it's synonymous with this price point, because again, I've never experienced anything by Kubi, so I don't know if this is something that is very common with a lot of their models, but at least in my experience, that was, you know, the break-in that I had to go through with this thing. And it was just using it over and over again. The action on this thing, it just got better and better. I didn't have to adjust it after, you know, the first time, and adding you know, a healthy amount of Loctite to it, and it's been wonderful ever since. So taking a look at this blade, including the spine and that jimping, that I would say the knife industry as a whole needs to take notes and needs to definitely open up an ear to this. If you're going to do spine mounted jimping with a forward finger choil, this is the way to go. Now, it is not that sharp. It's not that grabby. It looks quite similar to the spine jimping that's on my small Sebenza 31. That one is a little bit sharper and more meaningful, but I would say that this is a lot, there's a whole lot more space, and it feels great. It feels like it's actually purposeful, and I genuinely enjoy it. This little area, while it doesn't look too big, it is still smooth enough right here to where I don't feel any major hot spots. I have large to extra large size hands, but slimmer fingers. So just be a little wary if you have much thicker fingers, that you might have a chance of running up on that edge right there and nicking yourself a little bit. But me personally, I haven't found an issue with that. The hole, this is the only deployment on this. So thumb flick, reverse flick, Spidey drop, whatever you kind of want to do with this thing, this is really it. And it's executed quite well, in my opinion, super clean. There is the slightest little knockdown of that edge. I wouldn't call it like a full chamfer. It's just the slightest little knockdown. It would have been nice if it was just a hair sharper, because I find myself missing it once in a while. Mainly in the thumb flick, my hands need to be super dry. If I have lotion or any kind of moisture on my hands, I find myself skipping off, and it doesn't, it's not that great. But I will say that reverse flick on this thing, it's 100%. It's just awesome every single time. I do still enjoy thumb flicking it. I just need to get it lower down, and it's quite reliable further down, but up here you really got to like push the meat of your finger into there to get it, you know, up and out. So that is pretty much the blade there. And again, that finish is just, I love it. It's great. Super clean. As I mentioned before, I have not sharpened this yet. It is definitely due for a sharpening, and I will say that you'll probably get like maybe 2 decent sharpenings if you do a complete reprofile. Again, you'll probably just get like 2 sharpenings out of this thing before you start to create a smile, but I will say that that isn't an area that you can really worry about, seeing as a stop pin is way further up there. It's right there, pretty much. That's where the stop pin hits, as you can see right there. So if you really wanted to add your own sharpening choil, you could just notch out a little rounded spot there. So not a big deal, but that is definitely I would say maybe a little design flaw. Or maybe there should have been a little bit more thought put into that thing, because this thing is such a wonderful knife and a design overall. You're gonna want to use it a lot. And even though this blade material doesn't have the highest edge retention, you're gonna be sharpening this, quite, not quite often. That's not what I meant to say, but you're gonna use it so much because it's a great knife that you're gonna sharpen it a bunch eventually, that it's just gonna look pretty funky after a while, having a rather large smile on there. So I definitely would have said that there should have been something a little bit right there to compensate for removing so much material. And going back to the hollow grind thing, it's going to be slicing really well, even years from now, and after multiple sharpenings, this thing is still going to be kicking ass for sure. Let's take a look at these inset liners. That's a little bit difficult to see in there, but I think I got my lighting well enough in here now that you could actually see. And there are these ginormous, and I definitely appreciate it, these ginormous weight relieving spaces that were cut into the steel liners that are inset. The tolerances, they're pretty darn good. I don't notice any wiggle, and what I mean by that is when this knife is completely taken apart and you set the liner into the milled out space in the titanium scale, there isn't really any significant wiggle room. On some knives there are, which is not good at all. But there are some knives now that I've experienced, kind of like my Urban EDC F5.5, the tolerances on those titanium liners into the denim micarta is tight, like tight. It is just superb, absolutely wonderful. This is pretty darn close. So that is something that I felt like it was important to mention, that just the tolerances, fit and finish on this thing is genuinely wonderful. And it's super clean in there. The liners were everything's rounded off and very clean, no unnecessary sharp edges, and they were even given a light tumbling and finish to them. So, which is, I think, a nice thing, that even though you're not going to be seeing it, when the knife is, in use and all put together, that there's still a nice finish in there. So on the disengagement side, there's no weight relief, not a big deal. The weight on this thing, it doesn't stand out to me, but it is definitely a whole lot more handle heavy. If anything, I guess the balance would be just at the very end, right down over here. This is where it would feel the most balanced, essentially, which, to me, I don't really care about knife balance, but I suppose some people do care to know about these kinds of things. I could see this knife being a popular one in the future once more are created and more are available, that there are going to be people out there that may make aftermarket scales, and if this had like marble or shred carbon fiber, even still sticking with the liners, or maybe even some liner delete modifications, this thing would just be an absolute winner in my book. But as it stands right now, it is very handle heavy, very butt heavy, but to me, I don't really care about that. There is the engagement of the liner. It is fully onto the tang of that blade, not past, not something that I fear is going to slip off. There is zero stick, zero lash, and it's solid lockup. Definitely, once this thing was well broken in and used a little bit, this is a knife that I've noticed I definitely have been reaching for you know, throughout my work week. And it's just been wonderful. The blade shape overall, the way that I could, you know, creep up on it. It is like I have to go a little further up, but I'm not gonna really cut myself, so I can get a lot of control on that tip to, you know, slash some plastic and cardboard and things like that in the workplace. Let's take a look at this clip. This clip is about half the length of the knife overall, and it is very well executed, very clean design. There's one clip that you can see, but it is milled into the handle's a little square area, so it doesn't move around. And I would say the tolerances are not super tight, they're medium, so just be wary that when you are in the process of screwing down the clip again, that this may wiggle back and forth a little bit until it's completely seated, so you might get some side to side scuffing on the scales. But this is definitely a wonderful user knife that has a great stone washing to the scales, so it's definitely going to hide marks, but I would say heavy side to side wear, it will show even through that stone washing on the scales. Cool little thing about this knife is that there's actually a little space, or like a little like chunk that was milled out to accommodate for moving the clip to the other side, so lefties can enjoy this knife. And it's absolutely wonderful as a lefty also. I personally am not a lefty, but I will confirm this thing is pretty darn good, and I think a lefty could definitely enjoy this thing, so that's pretty awesome. There's no backspacer, thank God, because this thing would be absurdly heavy from the handles. Again, I don't really care about the whole, you know, handle weight and everything, but I would say that it was a good decision to just use some good old simple standoffs. And they're black, matchy. You know, they have a little round conical shape going to them, and it's just, this thing is wonderful. It's an absolute home run at $128. A highly recommendable knife. I love it. Really the main knife that it would compare to in my collection would just be my Elementum, but the Elementum, the way that this is set up, is significantly more expensive at this point than the Bridgeport knife. I mean, just to get the S35VN blade that was, I believe it was a Blade HQ exclusive, not available anymore. I wish they brought them back. If they are, please let me know. And even like if you're watching this video a year or so from now and they are available, I mean, go ahead and, you know, create a comment and just say like, oh, hey, these are actually available. So other viewers can also see that S35V and Elementums are available, because they're very hard to come by, and I don't really see people selling them on the aftermarket, unfortunately. But the knife itself was like 80 bucks, and then the Flytanium scales, they were almost like 80 bucks. The clip, I think that was like 25, maybe 20 bucks, something like that. So this was definitely a significantly more expensive knife than this, but I would say that the action of the Bridgeport knife is significantly wonderful in comparison to this. And the disengagement and just the opening mechanism, I prefer this over my Elementum. So if I were to choose between the two, I would definitely choose the Bridgeport knife, which is, I would say, a bold statement, because I do enjoy my Elementum, as I've, you know, done multiple modifications to it, you know, bringing up the overall value of the knife. And, you know, somebody wouldn't do that if they didn't like the knife. But I will say that this thing, I really hope that there's a V2 that's made with like, keep the inset steel liners. I think that is absolutely awesome. But I would say with a higher end premium material, maybe some different blade finishes or handle finishes, definitely think about some possible new handle materials, because it is on the I guess the more robust side when it comes to talking about the weight. But this thing in use and daily, you know, everyday carry, this thing is just an absolute home run. And that's pretty much it. I will be linking down Bridgeport knives down in the description. Again, they are not available at the moment, but I believe you can sign up for some kind of emailing list, and if these come back in stock, just jump on it. Just go for it. I believe that you'll enjoy this knife as much as I have. And with that all being said, have a wonderful day, everybody. Like and subscribe if you haven't. I definitely appreciate it. Share, comment, whatever you would like down in the description. I love communicating with you guys. And yeah, I'm just here to have a good time. Take care, everybody.